Okay, let's make one more video at least on this reading the financial statements and doing a little financial analysis. Now what I did without making a video is just put all our financial statements together. So after all of that work, we kind of have one little page, a summary page. And this will be a useful page. It'll, provide the basis for our financial model and whoops. Oh no, Alt EL. Okay, it'll provide the financial basis for our financial model. Let's begin, I think, by making a couple of graphs. We've got everything in column A, purposely in column A. Okay, and I think if we can just, why don't we put it on the bottom? I was debating whether to put it on the bottom. I've done this a couple of times, but we're going to just use your regular old index function to make our little graph. Okay, go to the developer tab perhaps. I don't know if this is a great way to start it or not, but what I suggest here is, particularly if you've got this sort of setup with not many blanks and all that, is to just make it simple. Click on column A. No, don't worry about the fact that the first couple of lines might not be actually a little thing, and then we have a row number. Okay, not very difficult. And why don't we also at the same time, so now we can kind of look through all the rows. If you'd like to perhaps make it so you can see a few more, let's make it go to 30 or something like that. And why don't we make why don't we make this row 1, and why don't we make the same thing, we'll add it and put row 2. Okay, and this time we'll do precisely the same thing, except we'll have a scale, and that scale we'll put 2 axes on the scale so we can compare 2 different things. Okay, so this would be row number 2. Now I might want to compare. I don't know if maybe it's not right to go all the way down like this, but what the heck? Where is our beer sales? I want to compare our beer sales with our net revenues, perhaps. And we can kind of look and see, well, it's basically we're looking at the price of beer. That's what we're really looking at. Okay, and then we just put index, and then we don't worry about a circular reference, and click on this row number. Press F4. Press Shift Control R. Press the second one, index. Okay, click on this row number, and click on the column number, column, and Shift Control R. Okay. Net revenue is not. Why did we not have it? Oh, this might be. Excuse me. This is net revenue in the wrong place. Okay. And we can put the x-axis at the top. Now, remember the most basic rule: you don't present anything on the x-axis. Okay. And just select that area and press F11. Okay. And why don't we make one of these simply go to the secondary axis? And I suppose we better make it line graph. And I think I have to redo the secondary axis now, don't I? Okay, it looks like these two, the blue is the beer, the revenue is going a little bit up, but the beer sales were flat. Now, the reason they went up here is simply because of the acquisitions. Okay, and let's put a couple of titles on this chart. Okay, I think perhaps we should put the axis titles, so we have the primary vertical title, which is going to be the beer sales. So we better put that here. Oops. Okay. Just put an equal sign. Just go to get it. Okay, and then let's put another axis title on here. Okay, and put an equal sign and get the net revenue. Okay, and if we wanted to get a little fancier, I suppose we could down here put the beer and put a little. How about it's just easy to do like this. This is net revenue, and we just put this on the chart. Okay, now let's also, why don't we, okay, I think we can do that. I think we should make a little flexible graph too. I think we should say if these two, this plus this one, is equal to 0, then let's use an NA, open and close parentheses. Otherwise, let's just keep it there. Okay, so what we'll do there, Shift Control R, is if we instead take something, let's go to the revenues now. So we have no revenues at the beginning for the first 5 years, and then we'll put the revenues in for the I guess this one. Then it'll give us an NA. Okay, and then on our chart we have an NA, but what we just do is format this chart, and when we format this chart we'll just make it a date axis. Okay, and that's kind of interesting, I suppose, that the excise duties have gone down, although they're negative, so we might want to even be a little fancier and put, I think probably it's very rare that you really want a negative sign. It could be, but for now I'm going to just put the absolute value here. Okay, and then we'll kind of see that they really do follow one another very closely. Okay, and now I think what we'll do, I'll just do one more thing perhaps. And how am I doing? We're at 9 minutes already, so I'm not going to do much more. We'll make some scatter plots. Okay, so what we're going to do is make some flexible scatter plots, and then in the next video I'm going to just talk about when you're making assumptions and financial analysis for a company, what sort of financial ratios should you compute. Now, this, I'm sorry I'm doing this, but at least I'm talking while I'm doing this, okay? So let's just copy these ones to the summary page. Now, what I wish we really could do, and it never really works, I think one of the really important issues in economics and in a company is how many fixed and variable costs you have. If we take some really notable bankruptcies, United Airlines, General Motors, Ford Motor, a whole bunch of them. The kind of companies that really went bankrupt are the ones that had a lot of fixed costs. And you, frankly, don't really know from your own analysis. It's very difficult to see what's a fixed cost and what's a variable cost. Okay, so what we're going to do is just do a little bit of scatter plots. Now, what we might want to do is look at here the cost of sales, and let's compare the cost of sales to the revenue. Now, I have to switch this one more time and make an absolute value on this one. Okay, and then so they seem to be highly correlated, suggesting that the cost of sales are really variable. Okay, and let's look at the selling, admin, and distribution expenses. That's a little bit less as the company grew. As the revenue grew, the selling, admin expenses went down. You can look at another video if you want to adjust these so you can have and let's look at the admin expenses. The admin expenses seem to be a little bit, they seem to go up a little bit with revenue here, but we can't do that now. I'll try something. It's not really going to work. What we might want to do is put one of these on the X scale and the other on the Y scale. So let's just take the same sort of thing, okay? And this time, let's make this first one the X scale, the Y scale rather. So the first one's the Y scale, and then let's compare that to the X scale. Okay. What that means is we don't put any x-axis. That's the big trick. And then you just make the same graph. But we'll have to put equal sign if this one equal to 0, then put the NA. Otherwise, we'll do that one. Okay. I'm trying something, and I'm doing it on a video. I really shouldn't do this if this equals 0, and we could have done a little trick, because if it's not equal to 0, then we could have used the false and all that stuff. Now, to introduce it, let me do something that I know should work all right. That's too bad. So let's say that, and why don't we do this? Well, I'm not going to do this. What I was going to suggest is instead of clicking on A, we could just select this and just go all the way down. Oops. See? Maybe that's why I didn't do it. And press OK. And let's do the same thing with this one. Okay, so let's, instead of just having it simply A, which isn't, I don't know if what I agree with, when I really think about this, it's not like a really big political issue, I don't think. Okay, so let's, we of course would have to copy this to the graph, so let's find some of these things that had a a longer term, a long-term analysis. So perhaps we'll, again, why don't I look at the beer and compare the beer to the, that's the beer volumes. Let's compare that to the, and look, they didn't show that, some of the details. I would love to compare that maybe to the, well, let's compare it to the operating profit. Okay, so what we do is this time go here, and now we just press F11 again, and this time you notice, oops, I don't know what I had here, but we right click and change the chart type and make the chart type an XY scatter plot, and we could try to put a line through it, but maybe it's best not to, so I have a crazy number here. And then so we can now on the x-axis, let's excuse me, let's put a go to our x-axis, and I'm losing it. Put the axis titles. So the vertical axis we have, and let's put a horizontal axis, and this is our x-axis, so we can put that as this one, and then we can put our y-axis, and we can go to the summary page. Now it seems that we've got some funny level of we've got some problem with the data, excuse me. So after all that work on the data, there's a problem with it. I'm gonna put this here. Uh-oh. I did the big crime. I didn't do the oh no. Oh my gosh. We didn't do the page switching around. Okay. Come on. I don't know how to do this without the mouse. Okay. I remember I had a discussion with a very nice person who had worked at Deloitte too. She said they were not allowed to ever use the mouse. What a ridiculous thing that would be, really. Okay, so let's put these two things on the graph, and then let's stop this video. So we've kind of done enough damage on this one. Ah, great. Okay, all right. So instead of we'll leave it with the beer. And what happened here? No. Did I really not do that? I'm gonna just pause for a minute. Okay, let's finish this off. I just put some of the axes here, and then now if we're this is just looking at the kind of historic data, and we let's see. Okay, I put revenue versus well, let's do it this way. Let's put on the x-axis, let's put revenue. Okay. Oops. And how about net revenue? Well, it better be highly correlated, and then we can put cost of sales. Now you can see generally that this, if we add a trend line, just a regular old line, I guess, you can see, I think it would be, you know, maybe we should format the trend line and put it, I hope you can hear me, put it through the display the equation in the R squared. Make it a little bit bigger, and we can see that the, if the, why would you know? If there's a negative intercept, like this one, that suggests that it's all variable. If there's a positive intercept, that would suggest that there's some fixed costs. So we're leaving net revenue here, and we can compare that to sales and distribution expenses. Sales and distribution expenses, they're highly correlated. It seems that it doesn't go through the x-axis. Whether that's due a little bit to the change in the nature of this company and the fact that it had a big acquisition could be the cause of it. But that's a little bit on how you can take some of the data and start doing some things with it. So I'm going to stop this video. This is our scatter plot, and this is our just graph of two items. I don't know, whether that's to make too much out of the scatter plot, obviously, but it's kind of a fun thing to do. And that's another video on our course for the reading the financial statements and doing this time. It's doing a little